This is about as good as...
Oh, look at that.
Cannot
right
take
away.
too many of those.
Can.
That is going to do it. Alex Pineda and new.
Hello guys, good evening. There are the 10 best heavyweight champions in UFC history ranked by skills. In combat sports, the heavyweight division has always been the premier division. That was the case in boxing, and that standard has carried over to MMA and the world of the UFC as well. The heavyweight division was the first to have an outright championship, being introduced in February 1997. The number 10 UFC heavyweight champion is Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was the UFC champion 5 fights into his career. Brock Lesnar left the WWE for the world of professional wrestling in 2004 to start a new career. However, after he failed to catch on as a member of the NFL Mendoza Viking, he went to MMA. He began training in 2006 and was signed the following years. Lesnar defeated the likes of Randy Couture, Frank Mir and Shane Carwin as champion. The former champion makes it into the top 10, but his limited skill set keeps him much lower than other title holders. The number 9 UFC heavyweight champion is Andriy Arlovski. Andriy Arlovski has stood the test of time. Andriy Arlovski is an absolute anomaly in MMA history. He started fighting at the age of 20 and quickly found his way to the UFC in 2000. 5 years later, he won the gold against Tim Sylvia and made several title defenses. However, Arlovski hasn't been champion for 18 years now. Despite being 45 years old, he continues to compete today at high level. While his boxing skills are his strong suit, he is still well-rounded enough to defeat the former champions such as Fabricio Werdum and Frank Mir. The number 8 UFC heavyweight champion is Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett became champion at just 24 years old. Josh Barnett has one of the wildest MMA careers of all the time. He began fighting when he was a teenager and quickly found his way into the UFC in 2000. After defeating Dan Severn at UFC 36 2 years later, the 24-year-old Barnett defeated Randy Couture to win the gold. He was quickly stripped of the title after he failed a drug test, the first of many. Still, Barnett has been a staple of the heavyweight division for 2 decades, and his well-rounded skill set makes him a problem for everyone. The number 7 UFC heavyweight champion was Fabricio Werdum. Fabricio Werdum has an absolutely incredible resume. Fabricio Werdum really did have an incredible comeback story that isn't discussed enough today. A Pride veteran, he was cut early into his UFC tenure in 2008. However, he had an incredible run in Strikeforce and even ended Fedor's 27 fights unbeaten streak. Werdum later returned to the UFC and put together an incredible run that culminated in a world title win against Cain Velasquez in Mexico. While his time with the gold was brief, he still had an incredible run. Guys, the number 6 UFC heavyweight champion is Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos was elite in his prime. Junior Dos Santos was a genuinely terrifying man in his prime. The Brazilian debuted in 2008 against Fabricio Werdum and knocked him out in round 1. He then went to the defeat Stefan Struve, Marco Krokop and Roy Nelson, and then Shane Carwin. Dos Santos then knocked out Cain Velasquez to win the gold in late 2011 and defended it against Frank Mir. While he was never the same after losing the trilogy of Velasquez, he is still a legend. So guys, number 5 UFC heavyweight champion was, and he is, Jon Jones. Jon Jones was very well might be the god of MMA. If this list was ranking the greatest fighters of all the time, Jon Jones might be the number one. However, we are ranking heavyweight champions. As a heavyweight fans have not really gotten to see Bones in action much. He debuted in the weight class, defeating Cyril Gane to win weekend gold last March after Francis Ngannou's departure from the UFC. That was an impressive win, but we need to see more Jones at 265 to rank him any higher. The number 4 UFC heavyweight champion is Randy Couture. Randy Couture was truly a one-of-one fighter. Randy Couture was called the Natural, and for good reason. From day one, he was a contender and he remained that way until his retirement. He was just effortlessly in all the time great, whether it be a heavyweight or lightweight. During his time up at heavyweight, Couture was largely outside by all of his peers. Still, he won the gold 3 times and defeated names such as Mark Coleman, Tim Sylvia, Pedro Rizzo, and more. The number 3 UFC heavyweight champion is Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic has the most consecutive title defenses at 265. Stipe Miocic's run from 2015 to 2020 is arguably the best in UFC heavyweight history. In that 5-year stretch, he defeated legends such as Andrei Arlovski, Daniel Cormier, Francis Ngannou, and more. While he hasn't competed since a loss The Predator in 2021, Miocic is slated to face Jon Jones later this year. With a win, his resume and legend will only grow more. The number 2 UFC heavyweight champion is Francis Ngannou. Ran the gauntlet in his UFC career. Francis Ngannou did leave the UFC with a massive fight with Jon Jones on the table. While the Predator had unfinished businesses, it's hard to blame him for pursuing at $30 million in boxing matches with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Furthermore, it's not like Ngannou ended his UFC tenure without facing any major contenders. Much the opposite, the former champion demolished names as such as Stipe Miocic, Andrei Arlovski, and Junior Dos Santos, and more in his career. The number 1 UFC heavyweight champion is Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez was the most talented heavyweight of all the time. Cain Velasquez doesn't have the dispatched resume or punch of the title defense. However, in terms of pure skill, there were few better than the Mexican fighter. It says a lot that he was assigned to the company just to fight into his career. Velasquez was dominating names as Chico Congo and Ben Rothwell just 3 years into his career. He later demolished Brock Lesnar in 2010 to win the gold for the first time. And while he lost it quickly, he re-won it just as fast. Velasquez's talent was unmatched. It was just his body that couldn't keep up. So guys, hopefully you have enjoyed this informative and amazing video. So if you really enjoyed it, then subscribe HSN Talks and don't forget to press the bell icon for never miss any new video from HSN Talks. So see you in next video. Take care. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz.